talking to Matt Crone this week about kidnapping cases that he's actually investigated during his time on the Toronto Police Force. 32 years on the force.
Yes, ma'am.
Were kidnappings a big part of that?
There weren't a lot of kidnapping investigations per se, but they tended to be very complex cases that took a lot of time to do.
$250,000 in hundreds by 3 p.m. tomorrow. No police, or you'll never see your daughter again.
We get the idea that kidnappers usually tell the families, warn the families against getting the police involved.
We can work around that. We have a lot of techniques and strategies and technology that we use. More times than not, it actually makes your job easier if they don't know that you are involved.
How can they not know that you're involved?
Well, in a situation, for instance, where someone witnessed the kidnapping and phones the police and we start an investigation, or in the case of an individual all of a sudden taking large amounts of money for people and someone notifies the police.
Ransom notes or ransom demands, typically how are those communicated?
Typically they're phoned in. They carefully cut and paste out of the magazine letters. I've never seen one of those.
What, you're kidding me?
No. People usually ask for small unmarked bills. And sometimes we laugh, it's because they hear that on TV, small unmarked bills.
Yeah.
But you stop and think about it. If I was to drop $250,000 in your lap and ask you to, what are you going to do with it? Ironically, and at some level absurdly, most things that people know about kidnapping, they pick up off TV. So that works for us because anytime you plan a crime that is that intricate, there are so many different ways that you can mess up or go wrong. When you think you have thought of everything, there's probably another 20 things you should have thought of.
Who's the most likely suspect in these cases?
In the large percentage of cases, it's an associate or a relative of the individual that's been kidnapped that is involved or responsible for it.
And do you and Mr. Karan have a prenuptial agreement?
Of course.
The prenup leaves Nadine high and dry.
Could be her way of cashing out.
Run her credit cards for plane tickets and check her phone records.
There's this very tense area that you have to negotiate, which is to get the kidnapped victim away from that situation safely while getting the kidnappers into custody.
Police! It's easy in terms of priority. It's always the victim, the safety of the victim, and then, oddly enough, the safety of the people that have committed the crime. You want this thing to be taken down with nobody getting hurt.
It's crazy. You have my daughter.
Step back, please. Look at me. Don't look at him. Look at me.
You have done nothing.
Walking into that situation, a family in the pits of despair and desperation, what is that like?
That is really the crime with kidnapping. Is it's not the loss of money, it's the emotional toil.
Did you find that being a parent affected the way you approached cases, work cases?
You're not cognizant of what's happening to you emotionally while you're doing it because you're busy with the case, and you never really stop to sort of take your emotional temperature.
And then you do.
Yes, and then you realize that, yes, this is having an impact on you.
And then what do you do about the impact?
And I'm fortunate enough that my wife is a police officer.
Okay.
And just a lot of times just saying, hey, I'm feeling this way about this or that, and having that sympathetic, and in her case, empathetic ear to talk to really, really helps.
How do you talk to your kids about protecting themselves when they're out there?
Every parent will tell you, it make me really happy. We'll just keep them in a room, right? We'll know where they are all the time.
Absolutely.
They'll never go out.
If I were a parent.
You can make your kids prisoners, or you can just deal with your angst based on everything you've seen. So we've tried to do the latter, and it's made for some long nights. But I think the most important thing, which we stress when we talk to them, is to be aware of where you are and who's around you at all times.
Well, I tell you what, if I ever got into trouble, I'd feel better having you walk through the door. So thank you very much for doing this.
Thank you, Karen. It was a pleasure.